For the past 2 years, Jocko Fuel has been the only supplement I've consumed. It's helped me stay in shape now that my competitive career is finished. If you've been waiting to try Jocko, the wait is over. Jocko has now teamed with Walmart, bringing clean fuel to the entire nation. Jocko Fuel is loaded with all the good stuff and none of the bad. And I'm talking no added sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and absolutely no gray area or banned substances. Just pure, clean fuel to power your performances. Jocko Fuel is now available in Walmart nationwide. Products available at your local Walmart are Jocko Malt, ready to drink, Jocko Malt Powder, and Jocko Pre-Workout. How convenient. Guys, the time is now. Consider trying some of my favorites like Jocko Go and Jocko Hydrate. You can even do it online. Use code CHAEL30 at JockoFuel.com or just stop by your local Walmart and get your hands on some Jocko ASAP. Don't wait, might not last. Fuel up with Jocko Fuel and crush your goals. Now there's no excuse for not having clean fuel. Guys, I want you to go get Jocko Fuel today at Walmart. Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Very interesting. Psychologically, it's very interesting. Some of those outcomes, you got a childhood on the line for someone like me. You have nostalgia on the line for someone like me. You have a hope of taking the world back, which particularly in sports belongs to 18 to 25-year-olds. Like, that is what that was about. It broke attendance records. It broke viewership records. Very few people, broad stroke, very few people cared about lefts and right hands from either guy. This was emotional. There was a lot that was riding on it. And Jake, like so many times, gets put in such a hard spot where people will criticize him for not knocking out Mike Tyson. And the reason that's a hard spot is for the people that would have criticized him had he knocked out Mike Tyson. When there's no when you got two doors you can walk through, and neither one of them is positive, it's a really hard spot. I don't know of a time that I have ever witnessed a fighter allow another fighter to survive. I know that commentary is out there everywhere. Boxing has such a hard time emotionally accepting Conor McGregor, who had never done the sport, go 30 minutes with the best to have ever done the sport. Like, boxing couldn't accept it to the point that they didn't. They told anybody that would listen, Floyd carried him. And there was not 1 ounce of truth to that. I mean, not 1 ounce of truth to that. Floyd did not carry him around. Floyd did not carry him a shot, a combination, a second. It did not happen. But that was a lot easier to accept than the best we've ever produced needed 30 minutes to get rid of a guy who's never done it. Even amateur, Conor had never done it. And it was tough. The very first thing boxing tried to do was lean on size. Floyd wasn't big enough, Conor had cut down. Then they tried to lean on southpaw. And then they finally just got to Floyd carried him. And the moment that Floyd finished him was 3 seconds after Floyd decided to no longer carry him. As human beings, people will always believe what they want. Like, when one outcome gives you what you want to be true, people will take it. Now, I'm sharing that because it plays out in sport. So while I have never seen anybody carry another guy, I've never seen anybody let a guy survive, I can't say that anymore. Jake did let Mike survive for 2 rounds, partway through the 7th round, and for all of the 8th. But it didn't impact the outcome at all. But it's being called into question. It was very clear that Jake allowed Mike to survive. Jake then did a press conference at the end while trying to preserve sportsmanship, while trying to be polite and to serve his fallen opponent. Jake did let it be known that towards the end, he did in fact look for the bell as opposed to the KO. And there's discussions of a lawsuit about this. People are upset about that. And I would just try to look to precedents. I don't see any other sport where that happens. In fact, let me take you back to the Olympic Games of 2021. So that would be the Tokyo Olympics. Soccer team from the U.S. won a game 7-1. And the soccer community was so outraged. They called for that head coach to be fired. And that head coach, this was women's soccer, she had to take the dais and say, this is a game that's outcome is based on score discrepancy. Meaning I should never have to apologize for scoring points. That's what we're doing. And soccer pushed back. Soccer said, no, you had enough points. You've only got to win by 1. When you were ahead by 4, you could have put the brakes on. You could have put in your B team. But instead, you went ahead by 5. By 6, by 7, you could have started playing pat. You shouldn't have scored. I was stunned to hear it. I thought that was gross. I think that is so disrespectful. But the community of soccer disagrees with me. In football, it is terrible sportsmanship. On all levels of football, I don't care if you're playing in 5th grade, you get into high school, you get into college, to run a score up. You, the head coach, will be looked at by that community in a very negative light. And I could never make it as a football coach. I could never make it because I can't get around 2 concepts. First off is the way those football players walk onto the field. You will never see a great Mayweather, Serena, Colby, Manning. You will never see a great using their energy when the clock isn't running. So I just would feel when they break through, they get the cheerleader and the band is going, they make them that paper thing and they bust through and they're screaming, they're jumping up and down. The greats don't participate in that. Tom Brady does not run through that thing screaming up and down. Tom Brady walks onto the field and he saves that energy until the clock is running. That would be the first reason why I couldn't make it as a football coach. But the second reason is the problem with running up the score. The fact that they resist that they're killing time. You've got an audience here to watch this game. You're getting guys that are running into each other as hard as they possibly can. Like the tackles don't lessen, but the scores are supposed to. And I'm just sharing with you, I could not make it in that. That is disrespectful in my opinion. I grew up under the school of thought of Coach Roy Pittman. And Roy Pittman would stop a match. This is wrestling. He had a towel on his shoulders at all times. You never saw him at an event. And he came to an event every Saturday where he didn't have a towel. He would use that towel and throw it in and stop a match. And the other guy would win. Coach Pittman would stop the match against his own athlete and force them to forfeit the match. And he used that towel for one reason only. If his guy was ever trying to make the opponent look bad. In wrestling, let's say you take a guy down and you put him on his back. If you were to let him off his back, to avoid pinning him, to let him off his back, say you're to take him down, they call it cut him, let him go. So you can take him down again and you cut him and let him go. And then you take him down again. You're now playing with him. You're making him look bad. And Coach Pittman would stop the match. You could be ahead by 8 points and there'd be 5 seconds left. He'd stop the match and give it to the other guy. If you're better than that guy, finish him. Don't play with him. And I share that with you because to watch the pushback on Jake Paul for admitting that he looked for the bell as opposed to the KO. I don't know that I wouldn't jump on that bandwagon with you. But in what other walks of life do you maintain that same attitude? Are you one of the people that don't think a football game should go 108-6 because it's rude and it's unsportsmanlike? You promised the people, you promised the other team you'd bring your team. You promised your own team. You can trust me when I call out plays. You're now going to call out plays that don't get the ball into the end zone. Out of sportsmanship? You think that was a kind thing to do? And it also comes down to stopping a fight. While I'm jumping around, guys, I want you to follow it. I want you to follow me because I would like a consistency with this. To give Jake a hard time and or to find some crooked lawyers that find 3 or more and do a class action lawsuit, which they will do. With what other sport do you carry that? Because our own head women's soccer coach had to go on NBC and apologize for doing her job, which was to score points. She had to apologize. Community was disgusted. So why is it when Jake Paul, who is not having a hand in the outcome, there was nothing that Jake did that had a hand in the outcome. He stayed true to himself. He just changed strategies. Instead of winning by knockout, there's another way to win. which is to touch him, move around, not get touched back. He switched strategies while still continuing with the integrity of winning the game. So what's the problem? Well, per the story I read today, one of the problems comes with the bettors who bet Jake to win by knockout. So they're mad at Jake. You could have knocked him out. Okay. There was nothing that I saw within that fight that makes that statement true. Just because Jake could have beat him up worse. How you quite got to knockout, a little bit of revisionist history. Jake's punches don't get better as the night goes on. Nobody's do. So if you don't knock the guy out in the first couple of rounds, you're pretty unlikely to knock him out. But I'll hear your point anyway. If he openly stopped trying something that looked like was coming, I would see where you'd be a little bit frustrated. But what about the guy in the football game that bet the spread? What about that guy? What about all the Super Bowls that we've watched and there's still time ticking down and they rush the field and they start their celebration? I mean, what is that referee doing, letting all these people on, but then it's their ball, it's their clock, they got the right to do it, but they just stop the sport? They don't try every second to score, to gain yards, to do better, they flick it in? Where's the lawsuits on that? I mean, I'm just asking. What do you do when you're that better and you bet the spread and they have an opportunity to kick a field goal and they elect to just run out the clock anyway? All they had to do was kick that damn goal. You make $10,000 and they're right there. They're in position. Everything that you bet on, everything that you risked your money, it's right here, and they elect to not do it because nobody has a problem with that. Nobody. And somewhere Jake was supposed to try the entire time to knock out Mike, according to you. Now, Jake does have to try the entire time to win. He can't ever go back on that. But he's got to hurt a guy, and I'm more wondering, why are you coming to Jake and not the cornerman of Mike Tyson? If you, the audience, are so sure and it was so clear that unprecedentedly you're going to file a lawsuit that he didn't knock a man out, of which you know nothing about. You've never knocked anyone out. You've never been knocked out. You don't actually know a lot about separating a human from consciousness, but you have decided, and you have Jake's interview as your proof. If the fight was that obvious, why didn't the corner stop it? And that I would like an answer to. That I really would. There is a general belief, and we're as guilty in MMA as they are in boxing, that you stop the fight when your fighter can no longer continue. There's not a cornerman out there that would disagree with that. You stop the fight when your fighter can no longer continue. You should stop the fight the moment your fighter can no longer win. I have stopped fights before from the corner. I don't owe anybody an explanation. And if the athlete has a problem with that, then fair enough. Don't put me in your corner. But the moment that I realize we are not going to win this fight, whether you're lacking the power, you're lacking the skill, you're doing the damage, the clock's got too much on it, get him out of there. Now, nobody's going to agree with me on that. Nobody. No commission anywhere is going to sanction or do anything to anybody for that. I'm sharing with you my opinion. You don't stop the fight when your guy can no longer win. I apologize, can no longer go on. You stop it when he can no longer win. Mike Tyson could not win. Now, Mike Tyson started playing a different game. Mike Tyson switched partway through that match to survive. Did a very good job with that. Mike does deserve credit. Conditioning is always a problem. He deserves credit. He kept his hands up. He kept his chin down. He was trying to maintain movement. There was a lot of things that Mike did very well. There were some problems. There was a speed problem of just simply getting to the target. Okay, so who's at fault? And if you start arguing who's at fault and where the fault is and the blame is, you start to realize nobody. Everybody did what they were supposed to do. Mike himself did the best that he could do for the situation that he was in. And Mike's trainers from the side could see he's still got his hands up. He's still rolling or blocking to the best of his abilities. So the trainers aren't guilty for not stopping it. Jake doesn't know how much energy he has left or how many punches he can throw. And whether he chooses to not knock Mike out or he chooses, that's just not the best strategy at this point. I have enough wins in the rounds from this point moving forward, including this very round, of which I'm winning. I don't need to switch and win by a decisive knockout. I need to just win. For Jake to change his strategy in a match, that is perfectly normal. And in so many other games where you will pull players off the field, put lesser players in and start calling plays that do not advance the ball towards the bucket. And people accept that. It's very strange. And if you want to know who's at fault in Paul Tyson, the answer is nobody.